Coming up next on Tech News Today, sponsored locations are coming to Pokemon Go, and it's kind of a genius move. I'm pretty sure they had this planned a really long time ago. Also, Apple is casting its app developer reality show, so go get famous and then email us and tell us all about it. Amazon's Prime Day was Amazon's biggest sale day ever. That's big news. YouTube publishes facts about how it's paying money to the music industry and to artists. And a robot runs over a toddler in a California mall. The toddler is fine, but questions remain about our trust of robotic overlords and our desire to go to malls. All that and more coming up next on Tech News Today.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1554, recorded Wednesday, July 13th, 2016. This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by Tracker, a coin-sized tracking device that pairs with your smartphone and keeps you from losing your most valued possessions. Visit thetracker.com right now and enter promo code TNT for 30% off your entire order. And by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Rocket Mortgage brings the mortgage process into the 21st century with a fast, easy, and completely online process. Check out Rocket Mortgage today at quickenloans.com/TNT. And by Wealthfront. Wealthfront is a low-cost, automated investment service and the most sophisticated way to invest your money. Whether you've got millions or you're just starting out, visit wealthfront.com/TNT and sign up to get your free personalized investment portfolio. That's wealthfront.com/TNT. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tech News Today. This is the show where we talk about the tech news, people who are passionate about technology. I'm Jason Howell, and I am thrilled to welcome someone who I rarely get the chance to podcast with, Ron Richards. So it's nice to welcome back after not even 24 hours since our last show together.
Can't get rid of me, Jason. Every time you turn around, I'm right there waiting for you. So, it's good to be back on Tech News Today. I am passionate about technology, and I love talking to you about things technology related and general things.
Yeah,
Jason. You're a swell guy.
Aw, shucks. Yeah. I should remember to pay you for that. Yes. For saying that, so I appreciate that.
Oh, yeah, I'm waiting on the checks.
I know.
I'm waiting on the checks.
Exactly. Hey, we've got some things to talk about. I know you're like crazy about the Pokemon, and I promise we won't talk a lot about Pokemon, but it is in the news, and so we got to kind of talk about it a little bit, okay? Those of you who might possibly want to email about that. Actually, we haven't really received any hate mail on this, so I don't know why I'm saying that.
The thing about the Pokemon Go is that it's really a fine line now between, being oversaturated and too much info and but it's actually a compelling and interesting story. I am still interested in talking about it, so I'm glad that that we're talking about it today. And I think that what we're talking about specifically is very interesting.
Yes, so let's get into it. If you thought Pokemon Go was a sanctuary of untainted enjoyment and exercise, pay attention. For now, all those neat places on the Pokemon map are merely neat places. But sometime in the future, sponsored locations will begin to appear, bringing with it a new revenue stream for Niantic. John Hank, CEO of Niantic, said, "Pay us to be locations within the virtual game board," the premise being that it is an inducement that drives foot traffic. So you can kind of like imagine a scenario where a gym inside the game is featured at a store or restaurant. You can imagine this because it already exists. Basically, there are, randomly picked locations that serve as these destinations, and it's already driving a lot of foot traffic there. So if you want that foot traffic, you can pay for it.
Which is great. This is a great revenue stream. It's a free app. Of course, there's in-app purchases inside the game where the user can purchase power-ups and things like that. But this almost reminds me of the original dream of Foursquare like 8 years ago, right? Right. Foursquare, which is now Swarm, and Foursquare is a Yelp-like app. I don't know. That's a whole nother thing to talk about. But originally, businesses were able to pay Foursquare to do stuff, have badges and things like that, to draw people into their locations. I think this is a genius idea. I've already seen reports of businesses both embracing it and shunning it. I've seen signs in major cities of businesses where they have a sign on the door that says "Pokemon for paying customers only." which is kind of funny. But I think the idea is that, if I ran a business, if I had an arcade, or if I ran like a coffee shop or a pizza place, I would totally pay a couple of bucks to draw these people in and have them frequent my store while they're playing the game. I think I think this is a great melding of the online game and the real world.
Obviously, it depends on the kind of business. I was getting a car wash this morning, and I didn't find any Pokemon at the car wash. I did actually find a chicken roaming the car wash. I took a picture of it, put it on Twitter.
I saw that photo. Did a double take.
I really wanted to get it, but I couldn't because it was real, and it kind of frightened me a little bit.
Did you try throwing your phone at it? I think that's how you play the Pokemon.
No, I'm not rolling in phones over here, although I kind of am, sort of. But while I was there, I realized that across the street was a gym. Now, I couldn't actually participate because I'm not level 5. Those of you who even play this game might know what I'm talking about. Those of you who don't are like rolling your eyes hard at me right now. But what I realized is that gym is located at a smog check business. And I'm not sure that a smog check business would really benefit from foot traffic. You know what I mean? So obviously this would apply only to certain places. Apparently there's a pizzeria in Queens that used an in-game mechanic called a lure, paid $10 for a lure. And basically what that does is that attracts people to that particular location. And they saw a 75% sales increase as a result of that.
That's success as far as I'm concerned. I think that's great. We talked about this a little bit on All About Android yesterday on this week's show. But the fact that these locations, or these Pokespots, these locations, Pokespots.
No, Chris is rolling. Yeah, Chris is saying no, and I trust Chris's opinion.
Yeah, but yeah, a lot of them are notable places around you. And I actually saw, after we did All About Android last night, I saw a friend of mine in New Jersey post on Facebook that he took his sons to a Revolutionary War kind of battleground, or kind of like a historical spot, and all the Pokespots were all historically placed memorials, and he was able to teach his kids about the Revolutionary War while they played Pokemon. I think this is great. I think this is bringing out all the good things that these mobile devices and all the information we have, plus the gaming aspect and the characters that people love, and throw in a pizza place. Sign me up. I'm on board.
Right. I mean, that's what I was thinking, like pizzerias, grocery stores, like corner stores that just have, like, it could become a pit stop. Like, man, I've been walking for 2 hours chasing Pokemon, and now I need a drink. And so
the
you're
thing
there.
is also, you look at the audience of this. I mean, yes, there are a lot of kids, but I'm here in New York City, and I'm seeing a lot of millennials. I'm seeing a lot of Gen Xers. I'm seeing a lot of people our age. Bars, clubs, barcades. I think these are all great locations that would want to capitalize this. I know Brewcade in San Francisco has a ton of Pokemon around it. That's a place I could see them wanting to pull people into. So yeah, why not?
For sure. All right, speaking of Pokemon Go, the game development platform used to create that game is the Unity platform. Unity Technologies today announced that it has raised $181 million in Series C funding, with plans to use that funding to broaden and expand the platform's capabilities in virtual reality and augmented reality. Great timing. Unity is already an incredibly popular development platform, to say the least, with game creators, and has already been used for a number of games hitting the Oculus Rift and the HTC Vive, not to mention smartphones. Obviously, Pokemon Go is just one example, but I mean, I swear half the games that I launch on my phone, testing them for whatever show I'm doing on the network, it starts with that little Unity splash screen on it. So Unity is pretty darn capable and powerful.
Yeah, Unity is one of those ones where I remember when I first heard about it a couple of years ago, as a platform that allows you to develop a game just on Unity's platform and then deploy it to iOS or deploy it to Android. And I remember a developer telling me, "Oh, this had to have been maybe 4 or 5 years ago. It's like, oh, it's not good. It's buggy. It's all these problems. You still need to code in Objective-C directly and Java on the Android side or whatnot." And now, as 5 years later, I've talked to other developers who live and breathe on Unity. Unity is the place to be, and clearly they're showing some success. They've worked out the kinks, and it allows developers to just have that single code base and deploy for the individual platforms. And it's great to see support for VR and AR being added, and I'm sure $181 million will go a long way in making sure they stick around. So
yeah, I mean,
it's a lot of money.
Unity says it's behind 31% of the 1,000 highest grossing games on mobile. That's just mobile worldwide. Currently working with 25 different platforms. So it's all about, like you said, creating once, and then with minimal tweaks, being able to roll that out across all of these different platforms. And Yeah, really. I mean, the timing with this and Pokemon Go having such attention on it, AR, augmented reality, just kind of as a new kind of ground, new grounds to explore, has Unity in a pretty incredible, pretty great place. Pokemon Go is by no means like, grand use of AR. It's pretty minimal in that regard, but it's a starting point. And what we're seeing right now is that it shows that there is absolutely a market. If all the stars align, you've got the right product, you've got the right gameplay mechanics. This can be a big hit, I'm sure, for a lot of other properties, and Unity's there from the beginning. So excellent timing for them, I suppose.
That's for sure. Everybody's looking for their angle on the story. It's great.
Yes, everybody's got to get themselves in there somehow. Unity's pretty close to Pokemon Go, though, so I guess they belong there.
That's fair.
Apple is working on a reality series, and it's holding a casting call for the unscripted series. If you want to be famous, the series will be called Planet of the Apes. Sorry, I almost did it. Planet of the Apps, not the Apes. It's going to focus on the app economy, not the ape economy. And if you are an ape creator with plans to shape the future, solve real problems, and inspire change within our daily lives, then you better let Apple know you exist and then change said world with your awesome plans. What do you think about this reality show?
Only ape make app. Ape make app for ape. Okay, so when I was going over the stories for today, I pretty much did a triple take because I thought for sure that Apple was doing a Planet of the Apes series to launch a new content network, and I was very excited because I like the Planet of the Apes.
And then you realized, one letter off.
Planet of the Apps is a little less interesting to me. I wonder if a reality show based on the app economy will talk about the revenue split and how much Apple makes off of these apps.
That's a good point.
But I question whether or not the world wants a reality show. I question. I have issues with reality TV in general, but I question whether or not the world wants a reality show based around tech and Silicon Valley and apps and things like that. We've already seen several launch and fail. So I don't know who, they're probably working with, television producers and folks who know what they're doing, but I've yet to see that there's an audience for this kind of content. And I know personally, like, it's right up our alley, and my eyes couldn't roll hard enough at this.
Propagate is the company that was just created to help bring this to life. Co-owned by Ben Silverman, who's behind The Biggest Loser. So when it comes to reality series, The Biggest Loser is, say what you will about The Biggest Loser, it was has been a pretty successful franchise. It's tailed off in recent years. Howard T. Owens is also on board, MasterChef Jr., he's behind that. And also going to be at least partially produced by Will.i.am to get kind of that celebrity angle, because Apple's got to have the cool celebrity angle on things like this. So you're right. I don't know how much of a market there is for this, but at the same time, if Apple's going to do something like this, I suppose it makes sense that they would go with kind of this tech angle that's close to their heart to start off with. It allows them to do things like promote the apps of all the contestants who are on the show, and all that kind of stuff. And what does that do? Drive traffic to the App Store and pump up the platform.
Yeah, I got to wonder if they'll allow the developers to do Android app versions as well at the same time with their app, or they have to be iOS only. And also this news is just about casting and the fact that it exists, and there's no mention of where it's going to be on, whether it's going to be on an NBC or a cable channel, or if it's only available in iTunes or on Apple TV. That's what I'm more interested in, is what the distribution of this show will be.
Me too. Google acquires a new company every day, it seems. This time they've acquired Kifi, a startup involved with the search and collection of links that are being shared on social apps, social media. Google says that the team will be put to work on its Spaces group chat app, though they wouldn't confirm how many people were coming over in the deal. Spaces, okay, so Google has issues with its whole, its efforts around messaging just in general, because I feel like they have a million different products. Spaces launched in May. Right now, it sits at 577 in the iOS App Store. It sits at 284 in the Play Store. It did not light the world on fire, and it is yet another messaging app from Google. I don't know. I don't know if bringing in another company to find where Spaces is relevant is going to work. What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I still haven't used Spaces. I haven't had anyone talk to me about Spaces. I haven't had anyone say, "Hey, have you checked out Spaces?" Like to me, it's just one of those like launch with a deflating noise, a deflating balloon noise. My guess is that this is Google's foray into the world of Slack, that HipChat kind of ish kind of things. And to be honest, I'm just getting all my work groups up on Slack and getting everybody, situated there. I'm not going to move them all over to Spaces, even as loyal and as much of an active power user of Google as I am. And you as you mentioned, they have a lot of messaging woes. We watch Hangouts dying on the vine. We're waiting for Allo to be coming later this year. I don't see how Keefe is going to make Spaces become the killer app that it might be. I don't know what it's like Google Wave. It's like, what's the point of this? And I wonder if this work will then roll into something down the road where we go, oh, okay, we see how that all played into it. But right now it's a mystery to me.
Yeah, Keefe apparently works, at least has up until now, of course, to create shared knowledge bases for teams. So kind of what you're talking about as far as like, integrating kind of the Slack side of things into Spaces. Yeah. Maybe that's part of it. It's all around bookmarking shared links. So there's a product called Keefe for Twitter, for example, and that allows users to kind of grow or collect their own collection of the links that they tweet throughout the day and kind of archive all of those in a list that's searchable, and it searches the content, not just the link itself or whatever, but the actual content on the other side of those links to make all that information that you've shared using Twitter something that you can own and search through and use beyond just tweeting it out that one time.
So two thoughts about Keefe. Is this is the dream of delicious 10 years later, right? And then number two, interesting that Twitter didn't buy Keefe.
Yeah. Well, yes, and I don't, I think Keefe for Twitter is one example of what their product is for. But yes, it really seems really based kind of partially around kind of metrics and a tool behind the scenes. So that's where I wonder how that kind of integrates, how that team works for something like Spaces. I'm not sure.
And then the question also, and I'm sorry, I might have missed it in the article, but was this for Keefe's technology or was this an acqui-hire? Did they want the developers to tackle Spaces based off the work they did on Keefe?
As far as I can tell, and as far as what I've read, it's more of an acqui-hire than it is Keefe. Yep. Keefe as a product is going to shut down in the next couple of weeks.
Which is a tale we've seen numerous times before.
Yes, all too familiar with that.
Well, and good for them. I mean, they're a hardworking team, a bunch of developers who did isn't that the dream to get acqui-hired by Google? Like that's the kind of the jackpot, right?
Either that or you want to become another Google, but I don't think I'm not sure that Keefe had plans for that. So I think it's probably this is a good end game for Keefe, I'm guessing. Yeah. Amazon had high hopes for its second annual Prime Day event. That was yesterday. Amazon says that it met those expectations by becoming the biggest sales day in Amazon's history. Worldwide orders rose upwards of 60% over last year's Prime Day. U.S. orders rose at least 50%. Prime membership, of course, was required to purchase any of the deals. The deals were rotating as quickly as like every 5 minutes would be some other, hugely discounted deal. They expanded their stock for each of the deals, so they had more to offer. And then just in turn, offering more deals on a 5-minute basis just meant basically more sales volume. So good for Amazon. Obviously, they are really good at inventing holidays, which is basically what they're doing. What do you think?
It's strange. I saw this on. I was at my sister's house and she had Good Morning America on, and they were talking about it. And they sold something like 23,000 Roombas. Like all these ridiculous statistics around the sales. Mm-hmm. I mean, Jace, did you buy anything yesterday?
I didn't. No, actually, honestly, Chris, who runs a teleprompter, he did. What did you buy, Chris? Some earbuds. The X2s. Yeah, no, okay, so we got an earbud sale. So you're part of these statistics, Chris. I didn't. I just felt like I was busy. Yesterday was just a really busy day. If it was a slower day, I would have been a little bit more in tune with it. And I also feel like last year, social media was a lot more lit up about these things. Like last year, it was a big deal. Everyone was going nuts on Twitter or whatever. And that was a good kind of reminder of deals that happened to be there. This year, I didn't really see as much of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me the big story is the number that they're not revealing, which is how many people signed up for Prime to participate in this.
Yeah,
because that's how they get you. You know, it's like, oh, you want this great deal, you got to be a Prime member. I was at my sister's yesterday, and my sister's like, oh, it's Prime Day. Should I buy anything? And I was like, well, do you need anything? And she's like, not really. And I'm like, yeah, but don't worry about it. The only thing that tempted me was the Echo. Because I know that they had some deals on the Amazon products on Echo itself, but ultimately I didn't pull the trigger. I mean, it's manufactured. Like you said, it's a manufactured holiday. It calls attention to them. They got a lot of great press out of it. I saw Walmart is countering by having a week-long sale that requires no membership, and so
yeah,
it's the battle of the retailers. Amazon's going to do as Amazon does, but good for them. I mean, good for the people who are making the products that they sold, because if they sold 23,000 Roombas, I'm sure Roomba's pretty happy about that. So.
Yeah, and I'm sure they sold a lot of Prime memberships out of this.
Yeah, exactly.
Based on that alone.
Well, it's funny because.
But yeah.
And it's funny because actually someone had asked me about it yesterday too, and they said, is this like Black Friday but for Amazon?
Pretty much.
And I was like, oh, interesting. So did Amazon create a new Black Friday with this, basically?
I think that's exactly what they did.
Yeah.
They took what worked for them, what continues to work for them on Black Friday. Oh, and Cyber Monday. Oh, and I'm sure there are others. Yeah. And they just, filled the middle of the year instead of just having it be a holiday thing. So this boosts them in the, in the middle of the summer and gets people excited. It's a manufactured holiday that seems to be working. That obviously works for Amazon. The Echo was $130. $50 off. There you go. During the Prime.
I know that we were talking about it on All About Android, that the Nextbit Robin, my daily driver phone, was $239. So I saw some people jumped on that. So, but I didn't buy anything. It's
down by $3.
It's fine.
Oh, down from 300. Yep.
I'm trying to have less things. I don't want more things.
Exactly. And buying something because it's on sale isn't always the best reason to buy something. Because did you need it?
Exactly.
Is it something you were going to buy anyways? Because if not, you didn't just save money, you spent money. All right.
But listen, we are Americans and we are consumers and we like to spend our money.
And Amazon knows this. Amazon, too, is American and knows this well. Coming up, is Tesla lacking kind of the human finesse when it comes to its technologies? We'll chat with Sam Abuelsamid from Navigant Research about that. But first, let's take a minute to thank Tracker. They're the sponsor of this episode. With advancements in technology, we have all sorts of smart things: smart cars, smartphones, smart homes. Sometimes I hope that I'm smart, but I'm not so smart. Losing your possessions can actually make you feel a whole lot less than smart. And Tracker makes losing things a thing of the past, so you feel smart again. That should be their tagline. Tracker makes you feel smart again because you stop losing things. Put it in your backpack. That's what I did. Found a little pocket in the backpack, threw it in there. I forget about it, and now my backpack is going to tell me when I leave it behind, or if I walk away from it and I don't want to. I need that backpack with me. It's going to notify me on my phone. It's a coin-sized device. You can use it on keys, wallets, computers, even pets in seconds. The Tracker Bravo is constructed with an anodized aluminum for the thinnest and most durable tracking. Super durable. You pair Tracker to your iOS or Android device, attach it to anything with a key loop or the adhesive, or find a deep pocket and just drop it in there. And it finds its precise location with a tap of a button. It's that easy. You can customize two-way separation alerts. You'll receive notifications before you leave your item behind. And if you lose your phone, you can press the button on the Tracker and be alerted to where your phone is, even if it's on silent. Over 1.5 million devices means that Tracker has the largest crowd GPS network in the world. So your lost item shows up on a map, even if it's miles away. And then if an item goes missing, the Tracker app records its last known location on the map. And when another Tracker user comes within 100 feet of that lost item, you'll receive a GPS update of where your item is located. Your phone can track up to 10 devices at once. Tracker is enabled by Bluetooth LE, low energy, so the battery lasts up to a full year. Water-resistant cases are also available. You can purchase those, and that's perfect for things like pet collars to help it kind of fight the elements. You can even add a laser-engraved message to each Tracker Bravo, which is perfect if you're doing the pet collar thing, for example, or return information. Tracker recently introduced Tracker Atlas, which works with your Tracker Bravo or third-party Bluetooth tracker to pinpoint your items on a customizable floor plan of your home. That way you can save time and energy by simply asking Tracker Atlas where your item is, and you'll instantly get an answer, and you won't need to search for it anymore. You'll know. Go to thetracker.com and never lose your possessions again. Plus, just for our audience, if you enter promo code TNT, you're going to get 30% off your entire order. That's TheTrackr.com. Promo code TNT for 30% off your entire tracker order. All right, Tesla engineers might have missed the boat on factoring in the ages-old rule of PEPCAC. At least that's what our guest, Sam Abuelsamid, has written today on Forbes. Welcome back, Sam.
Hey, Jason. Nice to join you again, and nice to meet you, Ron.
Hey, Sam. Nice to meet you, too, as well. I love your background.
I know. And he changes it every time. We never really know where he's going to be Skyping in from.
Well, next time I'll do it from outside, and I'll bring one of my chickens on so you can have a live chicken on the show, too.
Please, you're answering my prayers. How long have I been asking for this? Okay, so Sam, tell us where Tesla engineers might have gone wrong as they've kind of developed and released the autopilot system.
Well, first of all, it's not just Tesla that I think might be the problem here, but just a lot of the people working on autonomous systems in general. I think there's obviously a lot of enthusiasm, but one of the things that I learned during my time as an engineer working on electronic control systems is that it's not just about getting the fundamental, the theoretical stuff to work right, but you also have to factor in robustness to the things that the humans in the equation are going to do over the course of time. Because what you'll find is that humans obviously are the biggest variable in all this, and they'll do all kinds of bizarre things under different conditions. And it's not not just the humans, but also the environmental conditions. Because a car can operate anywhere under different kinds of road conditions, different weather conditions, and so what you have to do when designing this stuff is really think about all those things, think about all those edge cases, and try to design your controls so that it's when you encounter these edge cases, it can degrade gracefully, so it doesn't just fall over. One in the article I wrote, I described an incident very early on in my engineering career when I was working on anti-lock brake systems, and my boss hopped into the truck with me, and we were on a frozen lake up in northern Minnesota, and he started pumping the brakes like you would do in the old days before you had ABS, and the system, couldn't understand what was happening, because normally when you have ABS, you want to just hit the brakes and let the ABS do its thing, and it dumped off all the brake pressure, so you had no brakes. And so those kinds of scenarios, and one of the things that when I saw reports yesterday about the latest crash in, I think it was in Montana, where somebody with a Model X had autopilot and the car ran off into some guardrails. One of the things that was mentioned in there was that Tesla said from their telemetry data the driver wasn't holding the steering wheel. Well, turns out that the way their system works, if you're on a straight road long enough, it'll stretch out the time before it starts giving you alerts to put your hands back on the wheel. And the way the system works is if it doesn't recognize lane markers or the curve is too tight, the alert that you get is really all it is, the icon in the instrument cluster that says, hey, I see the lane markers here. It just goes away. It gets grayed out. And it's not a really strong alert to tell you, hey, put your hands back on the wheel. And if you're not paying attention, you might miss it, which is what seems to have happened in this case in Montana.
So then I guess the question is, so, and sometimes we get this in chat where people are like, the responsibility lies in the driver, obviously, because they're driving the car. Engineers are trying their best from what you're saying in your experience to kind of protect drivers from themselves. So, I mean, I don't know, are the engineers ethically required to protect drivers from themselves? And when do drivers kind of, accept responsibility in light of that?
Yeah, well, I think ultimately the driver has the ultimate responsibility, but within reason, the engineers have to at least do the best they can to anticipate the kinds of things that might happen in the real world, and design the system so it degrades gracefully. And I think as an example in this case here with autopilot. And also with other systems that aren't even quite as sophisticated, lane keeping systems that are on a lot of cars, when when they're no longer able to detect lane markers, for example, and can't do the steering control, you need to provide I think, a more aggressive alert to the driver to, hey, put your hands back on the steering wheel, be alert if the driver is not holding the wheel, and I think in a case like this, maybe even slow the vehicle down, so that if you detect that the driver's not holding the wheel, which apparently the system did, then slow the vehicle down, bring it to a stop sooner. Don't wait as long. So there's things you can do. I don't know all the details of what happened in this particular incident, but I think engineers have a responsibility to the best of their abilities, when they're designing the control systems, to try and make them as safe and robust as possible to all the different kinds of conditions that you might meet. Same goes for weather conditions and road conditions. So it's not just things that the driver may or may not do, but the environment around the vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that comes to my mind, I'm sorry, Jason, just to kind of chime in, is that it almost seems like the whole self-driving car revolution that we're on the precipice of, the biggest uncontrollable factor is the people, and that truly a self-driving car will work as long as we don't screw it up.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the thing that companies like Google and a lot of other automakers are finding is, when they started down this path a few years ago, most car makers were expecting that it was going to be an incremental development. So you'd make the systems more and more capable and have more and more automation until we got to a point where the vehicles are fully autonomous and self-driving. And the problem that they're finding now is we're reaching this uncanny valley where the systems are getting to be capable enough that you can do, at least for some short-term stuff, what looks like, fully self-driving, but the driver needs to be ready to take over. And there's been studies that have been done by a number of automakers. Audi did one recently, I think last year, where they took a look at, with a system similar in capability to autopilot, how long does it take the driver to react and take over control of the vehicle if the system can no longer function. And they found it was like 10 to 15 seconds, which in an emergency situation is obviously unacceptable.
Yeah, too long.
And so what most automakers are starting to do now is they're starting to say, okay, we're going to have to skip these intermediate steps and go from the driver assist systems that we have today all the way to full autonomous. And I think what's going to end up happening is, for fully autonomous vehicles, what we probably want to do is not even allow them on the same roads with human-driven vehicles, and start them off in places where you can have zones, within city centers that are for autonomous vehicles only, so they don't have to interact with human-driven vehicles, and take the human variable out of the equation.
Yeah, and I can't remember how long ago this was, but we had a conversation along these lines on this show, a while back, and Megan, kind of made fun of a random comment that I made about like getting rid of pedestrians, which basically my point was that, we're in this transitional period. We're in this growing pains stage where the autonomous vehicles, that future works if the road is covered in autonomous vehicles and you remove the human element. And the problem is that it's the mixture of the two, and you never fully know what a human is actually going to do. You can have a good idea about statistics and what they're most likely to do, but then random things just kind of happen. Pedestrians just happen to be there and dart out in the middle of the road at the very last second. I mean, that doesn't happen very often, but you know what I mean? It's very unexpected.
It happens often enough that, that's, I think I was looking at some stats last week for 2014, and of the 34,000 or 33,000 traffic fatalities that year, 5,000 of those were pedestrians. Mm-hmm. So it is all too common. And one of the things that we can potentially do about that is what's called vehicle to external communications. It's going to start this year with vehicle-to-vehicle communications, where they use technology that's based on Wi-Fi, but it runs at 5.9 gigahertz. And cars will be able to talk to each other. So when two cars are approaching a blind intersection, they'll be able to let each other know where they are. Or if a vehicle, if the driver in one vehicle hits the brakes and there's a patch of ice or something that triggers the ABS or the stability control, it can broadcast that to other vehicles around it so they know, other drivers will get an alert that there's, slippery road. Well, you can do the same thing with a phone because it's based on Wi-Fi. You can have your phone act as the same kind of beacon, broadcasting your position as you walk around in the city. So you can have vehicle to pedestrian communication. So if a pedestrian is about to step out into the road, it can provide alerts to the cars around it, so that even before the driver sees that person step out, between two other cars, they can know that there's somebody around.
Right. Very interesting stuff. Always a pleasure getting you on the show, Sam. Sam Abuelsamid. Tell people where they can find your work. I know Navigant Research, but this article is from Forbes. Where would you like people to find you?
You can find me at navigantresearch.com and find our syndicated research there. And if you need some custom research done, we can do that for you. You can find my writings on the blog there and also on the Forbes.com auto section, or just Google my name and you'll find me all over the place.
Excellent. Thanks so much for coming on today, Sam. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Anytime.
All right. Talk to you soon. Hoping next time we get a little bit more of the Max Headroom background. Maybe I'll send that image to him.
I'll be honest. I like the serene meadow that he was in. That was very lovely. I feel more relaxed seeing Sam in that environment. So
don't get too relaxed though, because we've got a lot of show left to do. We got some feedback from all over the place. We get it regularly, all the time, from all over the place. This time we heard from Tim Lynch on YouTube, commenting on yesterday's episode with a few points. First, and a couple of points on Google's Project Fi expansion. Tim says, I've been using it for the past 9 months on my iPhone 6, and it works great. The only thing is that visual voicemail isn't working right, but you can pop in your Fi SIM, and if the phone is unlocked, you're good to go. And you said, who is today's trillion? Because I was kind of equating Project Fi to the trillion of mobile networks. That would clearly be Slack. I suppose so.
Oh, no, not
Slack
at all.
takes all these different services and smashes them through, but it's a little different though.
But I mean, Trillion was, you could take your Hotmail chat, you could take your AOL screen, your screen name, you could take your ICQ and put them all into one platform. Slack is a walled garden. Slack, I'm not plugging in, Hangouts or iMessage or anything into Slack. I mean, yeah, I don't think Slack. I gotta disagree with Tim there on that one. I love Slack. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think that's the trillion of now. I don't think we have the trillion of now. I'm hoping it's Allo. That's what I'm hoping.
I doubt it is. I doubt it. I don't think that's gonna happen. But I didn't realize that you could. I mean, I guess it makes sense that you could just take the Fi SIM and pop it into another device. But why haven't we heard more about that? Because so often the Project Fi conversation comes down to but you can only really use Nexus devices with it. But obviously you can't. You can use other ones too.
There's really, I mean, I can't imagine there was any sort of thing keeping you from doing that. I mean, I don't know why we never thought of that, actually.
I don't know.
That's funny.
I don't know. I'm sure someone will tell us why. I'm sure we'll hear about it from you. So let us know. That's what feedback section is all about. TNT@twit.tv. Coming up, Ron and I are going to talk a little bit about the music industry, namely YouTube and kind of the artists that are going after it. A few things to talk about there. But first, let's take a minute to thank Rocket Mortgage. They're the sponsor of this episode. That's Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. I've got a mortgage. We got a mortgage a couple of years ago on our house, and it was kind of a challenging experience getting that up and running with all the paperwork and everything. I needed, something like Rocket Mortgage, which basically makes the whole process easy. How do they do that? Instead of these stacks of paperwork that you have to manage and all these data points that you have to collect, Rocket Mortgage helps you do this in the 21st century. It brings the whole process into the 21st century. Fast, powerful, and completely online, Rocket Mortgage has taken all the complicated, time-consuming parts of applying for a mortgage out of the equation. That's the stuff you don't need, you don't want to have to manage. Hate searching through stacks of old files and paperwork? I know I do. With Rocket Mortgage, you can easily share your bank statements and your pay stubs at the touch of a button, helping you get approved in minutes for a custom mortgage solution that's been tailored to your unique financial situation. And even better, with Rocket Mortgage, you can do all of this on your phone or tablet. It's a quick online process that you can manage from the convenience of your couch or wherever you happen to be sitting right now. Maybe you're standing. Maybe it's a standing desk. Doesn't matter. You can do it right where you are. So if you're looking to refinance your mortgage or buy a home, check out Rocket Mortgage today at quickenloans.com/TNT. That's quickenloans.com/TNT, equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states, NMLSconsumeraccess.org. And we thank Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans for their support. All right, so YouTube is no stranger to criticism when it comes to the music industry and its ongoing search for why it's not making more money, the music industry, that is. Today, Google released a PDF they titled How Google Fights Piracy, where the company detailed in no small part, I mean, it's a huge document, how effective its Content ID system has been. And basically, Content ID, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, it started back in 2007. Basically, content owners could sign up with YouTube and choose from 3 methods. So, they would upload their content to YouTube, and that would be then, from that point on, matched to any content that was then uploaded to YouTube. Content owner could be notified about it, or choose to have it instantly removed if there was an infringing video, or be paid for infringing for the infringed matched content. YouTube says that it's paid $2 billion with Content ID since 2007. That's up from $1 billion in 2014. So accelerated a lot. Is that a sign, do you think, Ron, that this is working? What do you think?
I think so. I think this entire system, I think the Content ID system is great. I think what Google and YouTube have done with it has created a way to solve for the problem. Because basically, if I just go and upload an album to YouTube, which we've seen people do quite a bit in the past couple of years. Mm-hmm. Now the owner of that music gets paid. So the content doesn't. Back in the day, remember years ago, if you uploaded something that had that copyrighted music, they would take it down. But now, not like it's something brand new. But now we've seen, like we mentioned, 90% of content owners who signed up for it choose to don't just leave the content there, but pay us our share. Right. I think that's a great meet in the middle solution. And the fact that in the past 2 years they've paid out nearly $1 billion just in 2 years alone shows the combination of, one, A, that it's working, and B, it's one of those natural, nature finds a way kind of things where users are using YouTube to listen to music and to share music. That was never the intended point of YouTube. And Google has done a great job to kind of respond to it. For some reason, the music industry cannot get away from themselves. They just going back to MP3s and Napster 15 years ago, they cannot, they're stumbling through this mess of digital, of the future, and causing problems left and right. And you've got Taylor Swift and Paul McCartney and all these people, I'm sure, Paul McCartney is really concerned about this, but their people are concerned about it. And signing these petitions demanding that Google pay more, as if it's up to Google to pay them to recover the money they lost 15 years ago by screwing up digital distribution. The real problem here is not and I feel for the artists. Don't get me wrong. I am very artist friendly. I have lots of friends who are musicians. I have lots of friends who are in touring bands. And I strongly urge the audience, if you go see a band, buy a T-shirt. That's the only way they make money on tour. Mm-hmm. Buy merch, please. True. But the problem isn't. I don't think the problem is Google and YouTube, nor is the problem the artists. The problem are the middlemen. The problem are ASCAP. The problem is BMI. The problem is the record labels, all the people in the middle, because what's happening is that the artists are saying, I'm not getting my money from my music being up on YouTube, but YouTube is paying that money out. It's that filter that's going through where that artist then gets pennies because of all the crap deals that have been made.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation for the relationship between YouTube and the music industry, because in some ways it's very necessary. Whether the music industry wants their music or their content on YouTube or not, people are going there to find it, and it's possible for them to find it. Content ID actually makes it possible to get paid for the stuff that they didn't explicitly put up there. I guess then the question is, and the question that critics have regularly is, am I getting paid enough for this content? Are you facilitating it? Is it a convenient thing to hide behind, as they say, the DMCA, because you know that this kind of content attracts viewers and you make a lot more money than we end up getting when you kick it down?
But they're not hiding. I mean, the people who say that the YouTube and Google is hiding behind the DMCA have a patent misunderstanding of what the DMCA means.
Right.
You know, and the DMCA is a horrible piece of legislation that has caused numerous problems, and I'm not a fan of it alone. But I don't think YouTube is hiding behind it. They're doing their best to work with it. You know, users can upload, you know, it brings up the whole question of safe harbor and, you know, and am I allowed to upload an album to YouTube, and is that safe harbor and all that sort of stuff. But, you know, they're building the tools to allow people to get paid. And unfortunately, it then becomes a game of whack-a-mole where, you know, record labels need to have somebody whose job is to sit there on YouTube searching for their artists to see if stuff has been uploaded and claiming it. But, you know, and YouTube is doing a lot of automation, which none of these are mentioning the fact that there's a lot of auto detecting and really kind of smart technology behind the scenes that is allowing that content matching to occur. But it's just the DMCA just makes things even murkier. And again, I think it's just the music industry looking for some sort of reparations for past mistakes.
Yeah, and I mean that's another thing that the critics, you know, call or kind of point out is like, okay, sure, you've got content ID, and sure, it's doing all this stuff, but it's not doing it well enough because we still have to hire, you know, staff to go in and manually kind of search for content that's infringing, remove it, you know, make sure that it gets removed, and the second it gets removed, it just ends up getting
claim. But the solution is to claim it and then just make the money off of it. I mean,
Sure.
which I think is a great middleman solution. The thing about this story and why this is interesting, you know, we were talking before the show started. We talked about this 3 weeks ago on This Week in Google because that was when the artists kind of came out with their petition and their open letter saying, YouTube, we want more money and stuff like that. So this is YouTube's response to that. And YouTube in this document has given specific data, specific numbers, which the music industry has yet to be able to do. The music industry has not been able to quantify their claim or their issue with Google, YouTube, or the DMCA of how much they're losing or whatever the issues are, because they're trapped in these horrible contracts. And we hear the stories. I mean, one of my favorite bands, Squeeze, re-recorded their entire catalog to put up on Spotify themselves because they weren't making any money from the original recordings of those albums.
That's awesome.
Right? I mean, and bands are doing that left and right.
It's unfortunate that they had to do that, but that's awesome that they did that.
Right, yeah, and they're not alone. There are numerous other bands that are taking that route because the Spotify deal and the, you know, now Ardio's gone, but like the other, you know, Google Play Music, the way those digital distribution deals are, the artists are getting pennies, if that, on plays, whereas they should be getting the lion's share of it. And meanwhile, Sony keeps cashing Google's checks.
So, you know, and there's also kind of the question a little bit of what we've been talking about here, the fact that Spotify last year paid $1.8 billion, YouTube paid $740 million. And the reason for, you know, at least a part of the reason is because the models are different, right? And Spotify and other music services, you're getting paid per stream, all that sort of stuff. Well, YouTube, you know, Google in general, it's an ad revenue basis. And so the question is, you know, so they're calling for YouTube to kind of match the amounts that they're getting on these other services, but it's basically the other services are kind of lodged into this old way of thinking, like the pre-internet way of running the music business, the music industry, and generating revenues. Google and YouTube kind of represents the new way. So which one's right? Which one's the right way? Because they're very different numbers.
Yeah, I mean, comparing the numbers between Spotify and YouTube are like a movie studio complaining that they didn't get as much money on TV as they did in the box office. Like they're just completely different platforms and they work completely differently and they're not apples to apples, unfortunately. I'm sure the music industry wants them to be as simplified as possible and all on one common platform. But like you said, Spotify is a per stream model, is a subscription aspect in there. There are all these, you know, kind of nuances to the deals. And similarly on YouTube, the content's got to be identified, it's got to be linked, it's got to be, you know, claimed and all that sort of stuff. And yes, stuff slipped through the cracks. But I'm sorry, is $740 $140 million last year not enough money? That's a lot of money. $1 billion over 2 years. That is Google making a concerted effort to get the money into the hands of those artists. And I don't think anybody can blame them for not trying to do that or hiding behind anything. It's $2 billion. The problem is that we all know how much Google and YouTube is worth and how much they make and whatnot. And so these are ambulance chasers. These are people, they just want more money because they've already been losing money, saying, okay, we can go after their deep pockets.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to put it, ambulance chasers. But I think you're absolutely right. Well, we'll see if the music industry does the same in being revealing. I don't think it's going to happen.
No. If anything, the music industry, the one thing you can set your clock by the music industry, in that the record labels will do everything they can to screw everybody they work with.
Pretty much, History is proven.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, TNT's fan of the day is Andre Vandal at AV Design on Twitter, who says, watching TNT, quote, is much better with VR goggles and googly eyes. I'm slightly disturbed, but I get where you're coming from, Andre. And how do I know that you're watching TNT in there? Maybe you're listening to the theme song right now and you can't help but dance. I don't know. I'm not judging, maybe a little bit. Show us how you watch or listen to TNT. Just record a video or take a picture of yourself or your setup or you bouncing around in VR goggles and post it on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, or Facebook and use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT. And we are going to find it. All right, coming up, a mall security robot collided with a toddler, and it didn't stop there. Don't worry, the kid's okay, but we're going to discuss the details. But first, let's thank Wealthfront. They are the sponsor of this episode. You're investing for the long term, for you, for your family's financial health. Doing that the right way is really difficult. It's complex. It's time-consuming. It's not easy. Luckily, there's Wealthfront. Traditional advisors charge huge fees, between 1% to 3% of what they manage. But with Wealthfront, you pay 1/4% a year. That's 25 basis points, zero commissions, no hidden fees. It's less than $5 a month to invest a $30,000 account. There are no additional charges for any of Wealthfront's services. With Wealthfront's new portfolio review, you can see if your portfolio is at risk, how diversified your investments are, what you're losing to fees, even minimize your taxes. You can get started investing today with as little as $500, and it only takes a few minutes to sign up. It goes right to work, monitoring your portfolios around the clock, taking action as soon as opportunity arises. Wealthfront is transparent and accessible. You can view and track all your accounts in one place. Wealthfront can track both your Wealthfront and non-Wealthfront bank and brokerage accounts that they'll provide in a summary of all your assets to you. You can also see every trade that Wealthfront makes on your behalf in your dashboard, on your desktop, or with their mobile app. Now, Wealthfront's process is based on Nobel Prize-winning academic research and the best investment practices. And we've heard from so many Twit fans who've used Wealthfront, who love how they can diversify their portfolios and buy stocks from in-demand companies that we talk about all the time, Apple, Amazon, and Facebook, just to name a few, all commission-free. Wealthfront recently introduced their 529 college savings plan, allowing you to invest after-tax dollars, much like a Roth IRA, and save for your child or your grandchild's higher education expenses. Wealthfront manages almost $3 billion in client assets, and it's growing rapidly every day. So what are you waiting for? Invest in your future today with Wealthfront. Visit wealthfront.com/TNT. You can sign up and get your free personalized investment portfolio. You'll see the customized allocation that they recommend for your profile. And just for Twit listeners, if you sign up to invest, Wealthfront will manage your first $15,000 entirely free of charge for life. Join the many Twit fans who've seen huge success with Wealthfront and claim your offer today at wealthfront.com/TNT. And now the story of a 300-pound security robot at the Stanford Shopping Center. It's designed to roam the floor of the mall, kind of documenting things that go wrong within the mall. Sounds like a high-tech robot to me. And even when it's stocked with numerous HD cameras with 360-degree vision, a laser rangefinder, and thermal camera, it was unfortunately unable to detect a 16-month-old in the mall. The robot ended up running into the toddler. His mom said the robot hit the toddler's head and knocked him over, and then proceeded to roll over the toddler's foot. She says causing a bit of swelling, but that's about it. Thankfully, no broken limbs or anything worse there. Apparently, this robot also has a weather sensor, license plate recognition camera, 4 microphones, and recognition capabilities for people that are not toddlers, as far as I can tell. Ron Richards, should we be worried? Should fear, uncertainty, and doubt? Should we be scared of robots?
I'm so worried about the next couple of years of the future because I feel like we're going to be littered. I mean, like talking about the self-driving cars, the robots in malls running over children. We're going to have a lot of stumbles along the way to our Star Trek future that I've said that I want us to live in. I don't think we should be worried. I can't imagine the people who made this robot want it to run over toddlers. Nobody wants that to happen. I mean, it's it's horrible. I mean, the thing is also is that where was the kid? And these are these edge cases that we were talking about earlier. Is that when they're designing this robot, they're like, well, what if a kid gets under the camera? Like, no, never going to think of that. And so these things, unfortunately, these are the missteps that have to happen to help progress.
Side chops or shops in the chat room says humans are going to be the collateral damage of the robot learning curve. And that is so very true. We're witnessing that. Yeah, it's kind of like what you do to get to this future where everything is so refined that accidents don't happen or happen less often. It's going to happen. There's the robot. Wow, that's an intense looking.
Wow. That looks like the autopilot in the airplane movies.
Kind of does, actually. You're so right. Just put a little hat on.
Just put a captain's hat on him and he's all set.
It's a hat. You're so right. So,
or it looks like Zingbot from Big Brother. For those of you who watch Big Brother on CBS.
Do not. The robot's built by Nightscope out of San Francisco. Nightscope actually does admit, confirming your belief that they didn't want their robot to hit a toddler. They do. Many of them are parents. They said they were horrified by the news when they heard about this. This is the first such incident after 35,000 operating hours, and 25,000 miles. So obviously, you never know. It's hard to account for humans, especially when they are tiny and incredibly unpredictable, as toddlers so often are.
That's the problem, is that, like, however many hours of this robot running without a problem is great, but there are going to be problems. How many people got run over by trains?
Yeah,
I was reading a book about New York City history, and a train used to run down 11th Avenue on the street to deliver livestock to the meatpacking district, and they renamed the road Murder Avenue because so many people were dying because they were getting run over by a train going 7 miles an hour because they're going slowly to avoid running over people. Yeah. It's horrible, but it happens.
Stuff happens,
and you don't want it to happen to a kid, especially. I never want to see a child get hurt. But,
for sure. It's like in the world of these autonomous and robotic things, we have nothing really, no statistics to really compare them to that are apples to apples. We just have other things to compare them to. Like in the world of autonomous driving, the only thing we can compare it to is statistics of non-autonomous driving. But we don't know necessarily yet what is good autonomous driving statistics versus bad autonomous driving statistics over time. Same goes for robots, casualties, or whatever the case may be.
And to that point, I would say that we don't have the discipline or the understanding of the consequences. Like, we understand you get in front of a car, you're going to get hit, you're going to get hurt. We understand that's the consequence. We know that discipline not to step into the road. Right. You see that white or egg-shaped orb flying around a mall, you don't know what's gonna. Kids are curious. They want to know. They don't know that getting in front, get out of the way of the robot. You're gonna die. Like, we don't
crawl
have that
faster
learning yet.
Crawl faster.
Exactly.
Yes.
We need to develop that discipline and understanding of the consequences of our new robot overlords. That's basically what we need to see happen.
Yeah, and if we're not developing this into the brains of 16-month-olds, which is a lot to ask, then maybe into their parents. So there we go. Ron, always so much fun to do podcast stuff with you. Thank you so much for coming on TNT today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a blast. I love talking about this stuff.
You bet. So what do you want to point people at? What are you working on?
Yeah, so you can follow me on Twitter at RonXO, and that's where you can find any pertinent news or information about stuff I'm working on. But my main thing these days is over at ifanboy.com, where is a weekly podcast where we talk about comic books, comic book movies and TV shows and all that fun stuff. We do a podcast every Sunday, and then we do extra episodes littered throughout the week. And this summer, we're reviewing all the summer geek movies. I think Star Trek is the next one that we're going to be talking about, so having a good time over there. And I'm working on some other new podcasts that will be coming down the road later this summer. I'll be announcing them, so just follow me on Twitter and you won't miss a thing.
Do it at RonXO on Twitter. Thanks, Ron.
That's me. Thank you, Jason.
We'll talk to you soon. All right, tomorrow's guest will be the triumphant return of Father Robert Balasaire. One final day with Megan out, and then Megan and I will reunite, and it'll feel so good on Friday, and then I'm out the next week. So, hey, that's just the breaks. But we're looking forward to Friday and also looking forward to tomorrow with Father Robert Balasaire. TNT records live every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. UTC at twit.tv/live. You can be part of the show by emailing us at tnt@twit.tv. You can leave us a short voicemail. That's 260-TNT-SHOW. You can also hit us up on Twitter. We are at Tech News Today TV. And really, the one you should remember is twit.tv/TNT. That's our home on the web. If you want to find me, I'm at Jason Howell on Twitter. Thanks to our technical director, as always, Kara Cole, and Chris for running the words on the prompter and for throwing in his input on Prime Day, and everyone else that helps us produce this show every single day. And thanks to you for talking tech. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye, everyone. There we go.